Jada Pinkett Smith. What is she? Part 2. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor, and welcome back to the analysis of Jada Pinkett Smith to establish what she is. We now turn to the relationship with Will Smith. She and Smith met in 1994 when she auditioned for the role of his character's girlfriend in his hit sitcom The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. She was too short, and another actress got the part. 2 years earlier, Smith had married actress Cherie Zampino, and they had a son, Trey. But when he set eyes on Jada, he said he realized he'd married the wrong woman. There was a unique, beautiful power, claimed Smith of his first evening out with Jada. We had that moment and we connected, but I was married. The following night he dined out with Cherie, but had to go to the bathroom where he broke down in tears. Cherie filed for divorce on Valentine's Day in 1995, and Smith married Jada 2 years later. And yet Jada revealed she'd never actually wanted to marry him. She'd always had her doubts about marriage, but felt pressured into it after she fell pregnant with their first child, Jaden. There are, of course, some individuals that feel pressured into marriage. However, when you look at the type of individual that she is, somebody that has a successful film career and is able to turn her hand to other activities, somebody who is forthright in her opinion, that has no difficulty in sharing the very much intimacies of her own life, to suggest that she's somebody who feels pressured into it doesn't really sit with the rest of her behaviours. That suggests hypocrisy. It also demonstrates that talking in such a way is demonstrative of blame-shifting behaviours. Also, talking about the fact that she didn't actually want to marry him demonstrates a reduction of emotional empathy or absence of the same for Smith. Quite simply saying, I didn't want to marry you, but I did anyway, hardly makes anybody feel particularly pleased with themselves, does it? And the fact is that she feels entitled enough to express that opinion. If she did think that, why not keep it to herself, to save his feelings, to perhaps spare the feelings also of her children? But no, her sense of entitlement means that she wants to be able to express the fact that she didn't want to actually marry. Now, there may be some people that would say, well, if that's her view, she should be entitled to state it. What really is, it's a view she's entitled to have. But shouting it out to the whole of the world, in the manner that she does, shows an absence of boundary recognition through oversharing, an absence of emotional empathy for those affected by what she's talking about. I was so upset that I had to have a wedding, Jada Pinkett Smith said in 2018. I cried the whole way down the aisle. Assuming that was the case, again, that shows a rather self-absorbed individual, that it's meant to be the happiest or one of the happiest days of your life that you spend all of the time marrying. Why not stop and not do it if you felt so strongly about it? One suspects it's a case of, I will do it, but I also like causing a scene because then all eyes are on me, which suggests the necessity to assert control and draw fuel. She added, I just never really agreed with the construct. I still don't. But yet you remain married to Will Smith, notwithstanding, of course, some of the turbulent aspects of the relationship, which we shall come to examine, and again, that suggests hypocrisy. Smith, however, has felt the exact opposite, admitting, there wasn't a day in my life that I wanted anything other than being married and having a family. From literally 5 years old, I was picturing what my family would be. We'll examine that further in the context of Smith in due course. They had a second child, Willow, 3 years later. Now, two precocious 20-somethings, Jaden and Willow have been home-schooled and are now a rapper and singer, respectively. Arguably, they are even more ostentatiously absurd, telling an interviewer in all seriousness how they can control and bend time. I can make it go slow or fast, however I please, and that's how I know it doesn't exist, Willow said. Magical thinking. Her brother agreed. On the level of being here on Earth, if you are aware in a moment, 1 second can last a year. And they meant it. Precocious behaviours indeed. If this was the ramblings of some teenagers, you would just put it down potentially to it being teenage fantasy. But now they're in their 20s, this seems to be more of an entrenched view, which shows a sense of entitlement and potential magical thinking, which suggests that this has come from the way that they've been treated above, and that the way that they have been reared is certainly unusual, and the way that they've turned out certainly suggests that they may well have been exposed to their own lack of control environments, which are invariably generated by one or more narcissists. Will and Jada's relationship was the subject of intense speculation from the start, and Jada was well aware of this. She explained, "I've heard all the things, that their marriage is not real, he's gay, she's gay, they swing," she said in 2009. "I tell you what, it's too hard to be in a pretend marriage." And yet, pretend might have been the word that some would have used when R&B singer August Alsina revealed in 2020 that he'd had a long-time affair with Jada while she was married to Smith. The couple initially denied it, and then admitted it happened after the Smiths temporarily split up a few years later. Issuing of denial, suggestion potentially there of the revision of history, either both agreeing to engage in that behaviour, or, and this will be something I will revisit, the controlling aspect of the marriage determines that is what it is, and the supplicant goes along with it. Alsina had been introduced to Jada by her son Jaden at a London music festival in 2015. Friends said Alsina, 21 years younger than Jada, lack of boundary recognition, who he described as God's divinity, became so close to the Smiths that he went on holiday with them, lack of boundary recognition, and stayed at their £32 million mansion in Calabasas, Los Angeles. He claimed that Smith had actually given his blessing to his affair with his wife, an allegation that Jada denied. Nullification of threat to control, denial. In 2011, it was claimed Jada and singer Mark Anthony, then married to Jennifer Lopez, were inappropriately close, and they were caught together at the family home. They denied the claims. If such a suggestion is accurate, that is the basis of infidelity, lack of boundary recognition, sense of entitlement, lack of emotional empathy. Triangulation through person. In April 2013, Pinkett Smith caused many to believe that she and Will Smith were in an open marriage, after stating in an interview, "I've always told Will, you can do whatever you want as long as you can look at yourself in the mirror and be okay." Now, on the face of it, one might think that such a proclamation is somebody that's quite open-minded and fair and is allowing him to do what he wants. But closer examination reveals it's not that at all. You can do whatever you want, but it's her saying that she's allowing him to do so. Thus, she is still allowing the assertion of control in such circumstances. It looks like she's giving it up, but actually she isn't. And if you want an analogy to that, listen to my video, When is the Narcissist Submissive? Also, there's blame shifting and the use of guilt. You can do whatever you want as long as you can look at yourself in the mirror and be okay. Basically, I'm going to allow you to go and do what you want, but I'm going to make you feel guilty and therefore cause you to question what you're doing. She said, because at the end of the day, Will is his own man, to the extent, of course, that she allows him to be. I'm here as his partner, but he is his own man. However, she denied such, clarifying her statements on Facebook, writing, "Open marriage? ? The statement I made in regard to Will can do whatever he wants has illuminated the need to discuss the relationship between trust and love and how they coexist." Will commented in 2008 on their parenting styles. "We're not strict, but we definitely believe it's a very important component for rearing children. It creates safety for them. They understand that they need guidance." In May 2014, Moises Arias, who was 20 at the time, was photographed shirtless in a bed with then 13-year-old Willow Smith, Jada and Will's daughter. The photo triggered an investigation into the family by the Los Angeles County Department of Children and Family Services. The fact that such a photo existed suggests a potentially laissez-faire attitude towards who their 13-year-old daughter was fraternising with. Of course, bear in mind, they might not have been aware of what she was doing. Not every parent knows what their teenage daughter gets up to. But this took place in the home, and that raises a presumption that they may well have known that this individual was there, who was photographed shirtless. And that suggests perhaps, in such circumstances, that there's a lack of accountability by way of parental abrogation of responsibilities and duties. Returning to Alcina, he had said that he'd been involved in an affair in 2016, when he was 20 years old and she was 45. Apparently, he was a drug addict that sought help. He'd been absent from the music scene for over a year as he battled drug, alcohol and pill addiction, and he revealed that he was saved by Jada Pinkett Smith. "You called me and literally broke down about it," the singer said on Smith's Facebook show Red Table Talk. That was really a reality check for me, because it was like, wow, if someone else can love you that much that it hurts them, why doesn't it bother you that you're actually hurting yourself? After winning 2 BET awards, Alcina's career was taking off. Then it came to a crashing halt in September 2014 when he fell off stage during a concert in New York City. He explained, "I was drinking so much liquor, smoking so much weed, and just one night at a show in New York, I literally passed out and in the middle of a show and fell off the stage," Alcina remembered. Smith added, "And it was a pretty serious accident because you went into convulsions." Alcina interjected, "And I was in a coma for 3 days." Alcina suffered from liver disease and was losing his eyesight. He coped with the pain by taking Percocet and then became addicted to the drug. "I literally had an endless supply of perks," Alcina recalls. "I was literally raining pills like Skittles for real." Smith remembers that Alcina was in denial. He said, "I'm not addicted." He said, "I'm not an addict." "Well, I didn't believe I was," Alcina added. "Right," Smith said, "because I said he's hiding pills in his socks." Now, with Smith's support, he was on the road to recovery, and indeed, there was an affair which took place. The fact that she offered help to him demonstrates cognitive empathy. However, what is interesting, of course, is that this is an individual who's way younger, indeed old enough to be her own son. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that somebody's a narcissist, but the fact that there is a lack of boundary recognition in that regard is a red flag. There's also, of course, the complexities of the relationship that she has with Smith, which essentially is one of, I can do what I like because in my mind we have this complicated relationship, which shows a sense of entitlement, a lack of emotional empathy towards Will Smith, because I do not see that it is one that he has necessarily consented to, but rather, as is often the case in such a dynamic, felt that it is one that he's had to go along with. There'll be those of you listening who have experienced the narcissistic dynamic that will know full well that there were instances and occurrences where you felt compelled to engage in certain behaviours. You didn't want to, but you did so nevertheless because you didn't want to suffer the downsides of the way that your partner at the time would treat you. You feared what would happen. So, whether it was engaging in a particular sexual act that you found distasteful, whether it was handing over more money, whether it was not spending as much time with family and friends even though you wanted to, you engaged in behaviours which impacted upon you, causing you some kind of loss or damage. Invariably in these dynamics, there is the dominant individual, the narcissist, that dictates the pace at which the relationship operates, describes the way that the relationship is, and the other party, the victim, goes along with it. They may appear to be giving their consent, but actually they have little choice in the matter because they've been manipulated to provide it. And I'll be returning to this theme again later on in this analysis with regard to the dynamic between Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith. The fact is that she didn't talk about it being an affair, but an entanglement, a typical narcissistic euphemization of behaviours, labelling it as something else to suggest that it isn't as problematic as it once was. Talking about the fact that she doesn't really believe in marriage, yet did get married, but then says that essentially it was under protest for somebody who's apparently so strong-minded, stinks of hypocrisy, and is a devaluing behaviour. The fact that an individual came who was clearly in a vulnerable position as a consequence of addictions, and it would appear that Jada Pinkett Smith took advantage of that by having a sexual relationship with him. That shows a lack of boundary recognition, an absence of emotional empathy, a sense of entitlement, and is a form of manipulation by the demonstration of false compassion. Alsina claimed that the affair happened with Will Smith's permission. A spokesman for Pinkett Smith denied the claims, saying they were absolutely not true. Denial. On July the 10th, during an episode of Red Table Talk featuring her husband, Pinkett Smith confirmed an entanglement with Alsina during their separation, although not with his permission. Pinkett Smith said that Alsina misconstrued it as permission because she and her husband were separated amicably. She eventually got back with her husband after breaking things off with Alsina and stated she hasn't spoken to him since. Shelving dynamic, disengagement potentially. After Pinkett Smith's use of the word entanglement went viral on the internet, Alsina released a collaboration entitled Entanglements with rapper Rick Ross. In 2021, Will Smith stated that Pinkett Smith never believed in conventional marriage. Again, that shows a sense of entitlement to basically say, I will have a relationship with you, but it's always going to be on my terms, and I will do what I want, and I will allow you to do what you want so long as I am the one that says that you can do what you want. It certainly is a complicated relationship, and there's much been written about it, but from the information that I've gathered and the evidence that I've reviewed, it appears to be a relationship whereby she asserts considerable control over Smith, that she has conducted an affair, entanglement, call it what you will, and instead of accepting that infidelity took place, she talks about it in a way whereby the nature of the relationship is one where it can't be an infidelity because it's an open marriage. Smith, I would say, goes along with this as a consequence of the control that's being asserted upon him. And there'll also be potential other reasons why he does so, which we will address in the segment on him. But the nature of the relationship that Jada Pinkett Smith has with her husband exhibits the assertion of control. It exhibits an absence of emotional empathy. It shows an absence of accountability. It demonstrates, in instance, haughty behaviours in terms of the way she talked about the fact that she didn't want to get married. How about that for a slap in the face, Chris Rock style, at the outset of the relationship? Having touched on these matters and started to uncover more of her personality and behaviours which start to paint a picture for us, we're going to move on to the issue of her first pregnancy and how she regarded that, and the reaction to that from Smith, but also the conception itself, which is rather eye-opening. Join me in part 3 as we examine Jada Pinkett Smith further.